Bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong. This is Joe, the bearded historian. He'll tell you an interesting story. Be careful of his soldiers, they can be brats. This is Angel, she's an entity. She'll cause chaos and plant her hands at you. This is Sue, she likes spirits, not the alcohol. She's the reason this channel exists. This is David, he likes fire trucks. He's here occasionally. Bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong. We preserve his story. Welcome to Wayback Wednesday. This is a special one dedicated to someone I know itty bitty bits about. If you are not familiar or have not heard, Ozzy Osborne passed away yesterday, or last night, I guess would be. I am not knowledge Ozzy. I'm pretty sure I've heard Joe play some of his songs, but never been my vibe, never been my thing. So I cannot comment on that, but Joe wanted to honor him by doing a video, so here we are. Alright, are you ready? Here we go. I've chosen a motorcycle race. Actually it's a motorbike race, but you know, whatevers. Australia's coming up in like a little over a week. Ready? Here we go. Shout out time. Here's a shout out just for you. You support me, so I support you. This shout out is for our friends. Let's see who it is today. Are you ready? Here we go.
Questions only could be really fucking fun considering how stupid we are.
Sometimes. Alright, we got Hunky Oteo, my Linda, Jocelyn, a duo, Hillbilly, Reverend, Cruising, there's We Go, there's Ford, there's Jody, Frugal, Nacho Daily, Aries, Stony, Mountain Inspiration, Wanda, Hillbillies, Travis, trying to see some names here, Ford, Steph, Win, Six Bows, let's see, we got A&M pulling to the background, there's Leach, there's Laura, there's Tails, Day One coming from the back.
Damn.
Okay. This is Marlena. This is a vlog hangout place. As you can see, maybe. There we go. Mostly catch her lives every few days. She's got some shorts. And of course some regular videos, but this is mostly a vlog, hangout kind of channel. Check her out, like, share, comment, have a good day. Alright, tell them something awesome sauces.
Well, unless you've
sad and
awesome, and unless you've been, you know, hiding in a tunnel somewhere, or you know, have been ignoring the media. Today, they announced sadly that Ozzy Osborne has passed away, 76 years old. And I think the thing that's been said time and time again is that a lot of people, you know, they looked at his last concert that he just did on the 5th of July, and it was such a huge event with a number of both heavy metal and rock artists participating in a huge concert that was well received. You know, over 5 million people have broadcast pieces of it, or in its entirety. It's, you know, to put it into a nutshell is almost impossible to think about, you know, here's the guy that a lot of people would refer to as the grandfather of heavy metal. You know. Anyway, Ozzy, the given name was John Michael Osborne, was born back in 1948. I didn't realize he'd been born that long ago. He's a little younger than my dad, a little older than my mom. Born in a maternity hospital in Marston Green, and grew up in the Aston area of Birmingham. His mother, Lillian, was a non-observant Catholic who worked at a Lucas factory, and his father, John Thomas Jack Osborne, would work night shifts as a toolmaker at General Electric. Now, Osborne, growing up, had 3 older sisters, Jean, Iris, and Gillian, and 2 younger brothers named Paul and Tony. A total of 6 kids. Yeah. The family would live in a 2-bedroom home, small, at 14 Lodge Road in Aston. Osborne would gain the nickname of Ozzy as a child. He dealt with dyslexia at school, and he had an accent that's described as a hesitant brumming. Well, at age of 11, he would suffer abuse from school bullies. He said he attempted suicide multiple times as a teenager, and he participated in school plays, including Gilbert and Sullivan's The Mikado and the HMS Pinafore. Upon hearing the hit single of the Beatles at age 14, he became a fan of the band and credited their 1963 song, She Loves You, with inspiring him to become a musician. In the 2011 documentary, God Bless Ozzy Osbourne, Osborne said that the Beatles made him realize that he was going to be a rock star the rest of his life. Well, he left school at the age of 15 and was employed as a construction site laborer, trainee plumber, apprentice toolmaker, car factory horn tuner, and a slaughterhouse worker. There's one heck of a resume. A little bit of everything and not any one thing. At the age of 17, he was convicted of robbing a clothes shop. Oops. But was unable to pay the fine. His father also refused to pay it to teach him a lesson, resulting in Osborne spending 6 weeks at Winston Green Prison. Well, in late '67, Geezer Butler formed his first band, Rare Breed, and recruited Osborne to be the singer. The band broke up after 2 shows. Osborne and Butler would reunite in another band, Polka Tulk Blues, which included guitarist Tony Iommi and drummer Bill Ward, whose band Mythology had recently broke up as well. Well, they renamed the band Earth, but after being accidentally booked for a show instead of a different band with the same name, they decided to change the band's name again, this time settling on something a little more familiar, Black Sabbath. This was in August of 1969. Now, the band's name was inspired by the film of the same title, Black Sabbath, noticed how people enjoyed being frightened during their appearances, which inspired the bands to play heavy blues-style music laced with gloomy sounds and lyrics. While recording that first album, Butler read an occult book and woke up seeing a dark figure at the end of the bed. Butler told Osborne about it, and together they wrote the lyrics to Black Sabbath, their first song in a darker vein. Well, the band's U.S. record label, Warner Brothers, invested only modestly in it, but Black Sabbath met with swift and enduring success. Built around Tony Iommi's guitar riffs, Geezer Butler's lyrics, Bill Ward's dark tempo drum beats, and topped by Osborne's eerie vocals, the debut album Black Sabbath and Paranoid were commercially successful, also gained considerable radio airplay. Osborne would recall, however, that in those days, the band wasn't very popular with women.
Yeah.
Now, about that same time, Osborne would meet his first wife, Sharon Orden, I should say second wife. After the unexpected success of their first album, Black Sabbath was considering her father, Don Arden, as their new manager, and Sharon was at that time working as Don's receptionist. Osborne admitted he was attracted to her immediately, but assumed that she probably thought I was a lunatic.
Yeah.
Osborne later recalled that the best thing about eventually choosing Don Arden as manager is he got to see Sharon regularly, although their relationship was strictly professional at that point. Well, just 5 months after the release of Paranoid, the band released Master of Reality. The album reached the top 10 in both the US and the UK, and was certified gold in less than 2 months. In the 1980s, it also would get platinum certification and went double platinum in the early 21st century. Reviews of the album were unfavorable. Lester Bangs of the Rolling Stone famously dismissed Master of Reality as naive, simplistic, repetitive, and absolute doggerel.
Uh-oh.
Although the very same magazine would later place the album at number 298 on their 500 greatest albums of all time list compiled in 2003. Well, in September of 1972, Black Sabbath would release Black Sabbath number 4. The critics were dismissive of the album, however, it did reach gold status in less than a month, and it was the band's fourth consecutive album to sell over 1 million copies in the U.S. In November of 1973, Black Sabbath had also released the critically acclaimed Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. For the first time, the band received favorable reviews in the mainstream press. Gordon Fletcher of the Rolling Stone called the album an extraordinary gripping affair with nothing less than a complete success. Decades later, AllMusic's Eduardo Rivera called the album a masterpiece essential to any heavy metal collection, also claiming the band displayed a newfound sense of finesse and maturity. The album marked the band's fifth consecutive platinum-selling album in the U.S. Sabotage was released in July of 1975, and again there were favorable reviews. Rolling Stone stated Sabotage is not only Black Sabbath's best record since Paranoid, it might be their best ever. In a retrospective review, AllMusic was less favorable, noting that the magical chemistry that once made the albums as Paranoid and Volume 4 so special was beginning to disintegrate. Technical Ecstasy, released on September 25, 1976, was also met with mixed reviews. AllMusic gave the album 2 stars and noted that the band was unraveling at an alarming rate. Well, between 1977 and early 78, Osborne would leave the band for 3 months to pursue a solo project called The Blizzard of Oz, a title which had been suggested by his father. 3 members of the band, Necromandus, who had supported Sabbath in Birmingham when they were called Earth, backed Osborne into his studio and briefly became the first incarnation of a solo band. At the request of the other band members, Osborne would rejoin Sabbath. The band spent 5 months at Sound Interchange Studio in Toronto, where they wrote and recorded their next album, Never Say Die. It took a long time, Ozzie said of Never Say Die. We were getting really drugged out, doing a lot of dope. We were going down to sessions and have to pack up because we were too stoned. We have to stop. Nobody could get anything right. We were all over the place and everybody was playing a different thing. We'd go back, sleep it off, and then try again the next day. Well, in May of 78, Black Sabbath began the Never Say Die tour with Van Halen as an opening act. Reviewers called Sabbath's performance tired and uninspired, in stark contrast to the youthful performance of Van Halen, who were touring the world for the first time. The band recorded their concert at Hammersmith Odeon in June of 1978, which was released on video as Never Say Die. The final show of the tour and Osborne's last appearance with Black Sabbath for another 7 years until '85 was in Albuquerque, New Mexico on the 11th of December. Well, in 1979, Black Sabbath returned to the studio, but tension and conflict arose between band members. Osborne recalls being asked to record his vocals over and over, and the tracks were manipulated endlessly by Ozzy. The relationship between Osborne and Ozzy became contentious. On the 27th of April 1979, at Ozzy's insistence, but with the support of Butler and Ward, Osborne was ejected from Black Sabbath. The reasons provided to him was that he was unreliable and had excessive substance abuse issues compared to the other members. Osborne claimed that his use of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs at that time were neither better nor worse than that of the other members. Kind of like, you're complaining about me? What are you putting up your nose? But the band replaced Osborne with favorite Rainbow singer Ronnie James Dio. In a 1987 interview with Tommy Vance on BBC Radio's One's Friday Rock Show, Dio said, "I was not and never will be Ozzy Osbourne. He was the vocalist and songwriter in that era who helped create the band and make it what it was, and what it was in its classic form." Well, the conflict between Ozzy and Osbourne commenced almost immediately in their working collaboration. Responding to a 1969 flyer that read, "Ozzy Zig needs gig, has own PA," which was posted by Osborne in a record store, Ozzy and Ward arrived at the listed address to speak with Ozzy Zig, and he then called himself.
When Yobi saw Osborne emerge from another room of the house, he recalled he knew him as a pest from their school days. Following Black Sabbath's formation, Yobi reportedly punched out Osborne several times over the years when the singer's drunken antics became too much to take. Yobi recalls one incident in the early 70s in which Osborne and Butler were fighting in a hotel room. Iobi pulled Osborne off Butler in an attempt to break up the drunken fight, and the vocalist proceeded to turn around and take a wild swing at him. Iobi responded by knocking Osborne unconscious with one punch to the jaw. Ouch. Well, following two brief short set reunions at Live Aid in 1985 and an Ozzy Osborne show in Costa Mesa, California in 92, Osborne, Iobi, and Butler formally reunited as Black Sabbath in 1997 for the 1997 Ozfest shows. Warren was absent due to health issues, and in December of 1997, all four members of the band reunited to record the album Reunion, with Osborne also touring with band again in 1997-1999 for the album's concert tour. The album proved to be a commercial success on its release in October of 1998. The original Black Sabbath lineup of Ozzy, Iobi, Geezer Butler, and Bill Ward reunited in November 2011 for a world tour and new album. Ward had to drop out for contractual reasons, so the project continued with Rage Against the Machine's Brad Wilk stepping in for Ward on drums. They played the first reunion tour in May of 2012 at the O2 Academy. Try not to sneeze. In their hotel in Birmingham. The album, titled 13, was released on the 11th of June in 2013, and topped both the UK albums charts and the US Billboard 200. In January of 2016, the band began a farewell tour entitled The End, signifying the final performances of Black Sabbath. The final shows of the End tour took place at the Gentling Arena in the home city of Birmingham on the 2nd and 4th of February 2017, with Tommy Clufotos replacing Bill Ward as the drummer for the final show. Well, in August of 2022, Osborne and Iobi made a surprise appearance in the closing ceremony of the 22 Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. This marked Osborne's first live performance in 3 years following a period of ill health. Osborne played his final show, billed as the Back to the Beginning, alongside the original lineup of Black Sabbath at Villa Park in Birmingham on the 5th of July, 2025. The band and Osborne played a short set, watched by a crowd of about 40,000 spectators, and a peak live stream audience of 5.8 million. Now, having been rendered unable to stand from Parkinson's disease, Osborne performed seated on a black throne. All proceeds from the event would be donated equally to the Cure Parkinson's Trust, Birmingham Children's Hospital, and the Acorn Children's Hospice. Now, after leaving Black Sabbath, Osborne recalled, "I just got 96,000 pounds for my share of the name, so I locked myself away and spent 3 months doing coke and booze. My thinking was, this is my last party, because after this I'm going to go back to Birmingham and the dole. However, Don Arden decided to jet records with the aim of recording new material. Arden dispatched his daughter Sharon to Los Angeles to look after Ozzy's needs, whatever they were, and to protect his investments. Arden initially hoped Osborne would return to Sabbath, who he was personally managing at the time, and later attempted to convince the singer to name the new band Son of Sabbath, which Osborne hated. Sharon attempted to convince Osborne to form a supergroup with guitarist Gary Moore. When I lived in Los Angeles, Moore recalled, Moore's band, the G-Force, helped him to audition musicians. If drummers were trying out, I played guitar and the bassist came along, my drummer would help out. We felt sorry for him, basically. He was always hovering around trying to get me to join, but I wasn't having any of it." Well, in late '79, under the management of the Ardens, Osborne formed the Blizzard of Oz, featuring drummer Lee Kerslake of Uriah Heep, bassist lyricist Bob Daisley of Rainbow and later Uriah Heep, keyboardist Don Airy of Rainbow and later Deep Purple, and guitarist Randy Rhoads of Quiet Riot. Kind of power band there. The record company essentially titled the group debut album Blizzard of Oz, credited simply to Osborne, thus commencing a solo career. Co-written with Daisley and Rhodes, it brought Osborne considerable success on his first solo effort. Though it is generally accepted that Osborne and Rhodes started the band, Daisley later claimed that he and Osborne formed the band in England before Rhodes officially joined. A Blizzard of Oz is one of the few albums among 100 bestsellers in the 80s to have achieved multiple platinum status without the benefit of a top 40 single. As of August 1997, it had achieved quadruple platinum status. I envied Ozzy's career, remarked former Sabbath drummer Bill Ward. He seemed to have been coming around from whatever it was he'd been going through, and he seemed to be on his way again, making records and stuff. I envied because I wanted that. I was bitter. And I was having a thoroughly miserable time. Now, Ozzy's second album, Diary of a Madman, featured more songs co-written with Lee Kerslake. For his work on this album and Blizzard of Oz, Rhodes was ranked the 85th greatest guitarist of all time by Rolling Stone magazine in 2003. This album is known for the singles Over the Mountain and Flying High Again, and as Osborne explained in his autobiography, was his personal favorite. Tommy Aldridge and Rudy Sarzo soon replaced Kerslake and Daisley. Aldridge had been Osborne's original choice for drummer, but a commitment to Gary Moore had made him unavailable. On March 1982, the band was in Florida for Diary of the Madman tour, a week away from playing at Madison Square Garden in New York City. A light aircraft piloted by Andrew Aycock, the band tour bus driver, Karen Rhodes and Rachel Youngblood, the band's costume and makeup designer, crashed while performing low passes over the band's tour bus.
Oops.
The left wing of the aircraft clipped the bus, causing the plane to graze a tree and crash into the garage of a nearby mansion, killing Rhodes, Aycock, and Youngblood. The crash was ruled a result of poor judgment by the pilot in buzzing the bus and misjudging clearance of obstacles. Experiencing firsthand the horrific death of a close friend and bandmate, Osborne would fall into a deep depression. The tour was canceled for 2 weeks while Osborne, Sharon, and Aldridge returned to Los Angeles to take stock while Sarzo remained in Florida with family. Well, Gary Moore was the first to be approached to replace Rhodes, but refused. With a 2-week deadline to find a new guitarist and resume the tour, Robert Sarzo, brother of the band's bassist Rudy Sarzo, was chosen to replace Rhodes. Former Gillian guitarist Bernie Torme, however, flew to California from England with the promise from Jet Records that he had the job. Once Sharon realized that Jet Records had already paid Torme in advance, he was reluctantly hired instead of Sarzo. The tour would resume on the 1st of April 1982, but Torme's blues-based style was unpopular with fans. After a handful of shows, he informed Sharon that he'd be returning to England to continue to work on a solo album he had begun before coming to America. At an audition in a hotel room, Osborne selected Night Ranger's Brad Gillis to finish the tour. The tour would culminate with the release of the 1982 live album Speak of the Devil, recorded at the Ritz in New York City. A live tribute album for Rhodes was later released. Despite the difficulties, Osborne moved on after Rhodes' death. Speak of the Devil, known in the UK as Talk of the Devil, was originally planned to consist of live recordings from '81, primarily from Osborne's solo work, under contract to produce a live album, and ended up consisting entirely of Sabbath covers recorded by Gillis, Sarzo, and Tommy Aldridge. In '82, Osborne also appeared as a lead vocalist on the Was Not Was pop dance track Shake Your Head, Let's Go to Bed. Remixed and re-released in the early 1990s for a Was Not Was hits album in Europe, it reached number 4 on the UK singles chart. In '83, G.E. Lee, formerly of Rat and Rough Cut, joined Osborne to record Bark at the Moon. The album, co-written with Daisley, featured Aldridge and former Rainbow keyboard player Donna Airy. The album contains the fan favorite Bark at the Moon, and the music video for Bark at the Moon was partially filmed at the Holloway Sanatorium outside London, England. Well, within weeks of the album became certified gold, and it has sold 3 million copies in the U.S. 1986's The Ultimate Sin followed, with bassist Phil Soussain and drummer Randy Castillo, both touring behind both albums, and former Uriah Heep keyboardist John Sinclair joining prior to the Ultimate Sin tour. At the time of its release, The Ultimate Sin was Osborne's highest charting studio album. The RIAA awarded the album platinum status on the 14th of May, 1986, soon after its release. It was awarded double platinum status on the 26th of October, 1994. Now, J.G. Lee and Osborne parted ways in '87. Osborne continued to struggle with chemical dependency. That year, he commemorated his 5th anniversary of Rhodes' death with Tribute, a collection of live recordings from 1981. In '88, Osborne appeared on The Decline of Western Civilization Part 2, The Metal Years, and told director Penelope Spheris that sobriety fucking sucks. Meanwhile, Osborne found Zakk Wylde, who was the most enduring replacement for Rhodes to that date. Together, they recorded No Rest for the Wicked with Castillo on drums, Sinclair on keyboards, and Daisley co-writing lyrics and playing bass. The subsequent tour saw Osborne reunited with Earth player Black Sabbath bandmate Geezer Butler on bass. A live EP entitled Just Say Ozzie featured Geezer would be released 2 years later. In '88, Osborne would perform the rock ballad Close My Eyes Forever, a duet with Lita Ford, reaching number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100. In 1989, Osborne would perform at the Moscow Music Peace Festival. Now, successful through the 80s, Osborne sustained commercial success into the 1990s, starting with 1991's No More Tears, one of my favorite albums. I will say there were snippets of Black Sabbath stuff that I really liked, but when he went solo, No More Tears, there was maybe a good 7 songs off of there that were a hit to me. Had Mama and Coming Home. The album enjoyed a lot of success on MTV and on the radio. Initiated a practice of bringing on outside composers. In this case, Lemmy from Motorhead helped pen Osborne's solo material instead of relying on recording ensemble. The album was mixed by veteran rock producer Michael Wagner. Osborne was awarded a Grammy Award for the track I Don't Want to Change the World from Live and Loud for Best Metal Performance of 1994. Wagner also mixed the live album Live and Loud, released on the 28th of June, 1993. Intended to be Osborne's final album, it went platinum 4 times over and had a peak ranking of number 22 on the Billboard 200 chart. In 1992, Osborne expressed his fatigue with touring and proclaimed his retirement tour, which was to be short-lived. It was called No More Tours, a pun of No More Tears. Alice in Chains' Mike Inez took over on bass, and Kevin Jones played keyboard as Sinclair was touring with the Cult. Well, Osborne's entire CD catalog was remastered and reissued in 1985. In 1985, Osborne released Osmosis and returned to touring, dubbing the concert performances the Retirement Sucks Tour. Very obvious. The album reached number 4 on the U.S. Billboard 200. The RIAA certified the album gold and platinum that same year, and double platinum in 1999. Now, the lineup on Osmosis was Wylde, Butler, who had just quit Black Sabbath again, Stevie Vai, and hardliner drummer Dean Castronovo, who later joined Journey. Keyboards were played by Richard Wakeman and producer Michael Bainhorn. The tour maintained Butler and Castronovo and saw Sinclair return, but a major lineup change was in the introduction of former David Lee Roth guitarist Joe Holmes. Wylde is considering an offer to join Guns N' Roses. Unable to wait for a decision on Wylde's departure, Osborne would replace him. Early 1996, Butler and Castronovo left. Inez and Randy Castillo would fill in. Ultimately, Faith No More's Mike Borden and former Suicidal Tendencies and future Metallica bassist Robert Trujillo joined on drums and bass respectively. The thing that's incredible is you think about all the names of the different bands that would come through the door. I mean, you've got right there, you've got Lita Ford, Motley Crue, Metallica, you've got Suicidal Tendencies, Faith No More, Guns N' Roses, David Lee Roth, Journey. Yeah, it's kind of a walking tour guide of pop rock and excellent music. The Ozman Cometh would be issued in 1997. Now, the first album of new material in 6 years, Down to Earth, was released on the 16th of October 2001. A live album, Live at Budokan, would follow in 2002. Down to Earth, which achieved platinum status in 2003, featured a single, Dreamer, a song which peaked at number 10 on Billboard's mainstream rock tracks. In June of 2002, Osborne was invited to participate in the Golden Jubilee of Queen Elizabeth II, performing the Black Sabbath anthem Paranoid at the Party at the Palace concert in the grounds of Buckingham Palace.
That seems weird.
Very. 2003, Osborne recruited former Metallica bassist Jason Newsted. Through his time with Osborne would be short. Osborne's former bassist Robert Trujillo replaced Newsted in Metallica during the same period. Well, in December 2003, on the 8th of December, Osborne was rushed to emergency surgery at Slough Wexham Park Hospital when he had an accident with his quad bike on his estate in the Jordans, Buckinghamshire. Osborne broke his collarbone, 8 ribs, and a neck vertebra.
Oops.
An operation was performed to lift the collarbone, which was believed to be resting on a major artery and interrupting blood flow to his arm. Sharon later revealed that Osborne had stopped breathing following the crash and was resuscitated by Osborne's then personal bodyguard, Sam Rusted. While in the hospital, Osborne achieved his first ever UK #1 single, a duet of Black Sabbath ballad, Changes, with daughter Kelly. In doing so, he broke the record for the longest period between an artist's first UK chart appearance, with Black Sabbath's Paranoid in 1970, and their first #1 hit, a gap of 33 years.
Wow.
He recovered from the quad accident and went on to headline the 2004 Ozfest in the reunited Black Sabbath. In 2005, Osborne released a box set called The Prince of Darkness. The first and second discs were collections of live performances, B-sides, demos, and singles. The third disc contained duets and other odd tracks with other artists, including Born to Be Wild with Miss Piggy. The fourth disc is entirely new material, with Osborne covers of his favorite songs by his biggest influences, favorite bands, including the Beatles, John Lennon, David Bowie, and others. In 2005, Osborne also released covers album Undercover, featured 10 songs from the fourth disc of Prince of Darkness and 3 more songs. Osborne's band for the album included Alice in Chains guitarist Jerry Cantrell, bassist Chris Wise, and Faith No More drummer Mike Borden. Osborne also helped judge the 2005 UK series of The X Factor, where his wife Sharon was one of the main judges. In March of 2006, he said that he hoped to release a new studio album soon, with longtime on and off guitarist Zakk Wylde of Black Label Society. In 2006, it was announced that Tony Iommi, Ronnie James Dio, Bill Ward, and Geezer Butler would be touring together again, though not as Black Sabbath, but under the moniker Heaven and Hell, the title of Dio's first Black Sabbath album. Osborne's next album, titled Black Rain, was released on the 22nd of May, 2007. Its first new studio album in almost 6 years, it featured a more serious tone than previous albums. I thought I'd never write again without any stimulation, but you know what? Instead of picking up the bottle, I just got honest and said, I don't want life to go to pieces, Osborne said to Billboard magazine. Now, Osborne revealed in 2009 that he was currently seeking a new guitar player. While he stated he had not fallen out with Zakk Wylde, he said that his songs were beginning to sound like Black Label Society and fancied a change. In 2009, Osborne performed at the gaming festival BlizzCon with the new guitarist in his lineup, Gus G. Osborne also provided his voice and likeness to a video game Brutal Legend character, the Guardian of Metal. In November, Slash featured Osborne in vocals of the single Crucify the Dead. And Osborne and his wife Sharon were guest hosts of the WWE Raw. In December, Osborne announced that he would be releasing a new album titled Soul Sucker with Gus G, Tommy Cafudos on drums, and Blasco on bass. Negative fan feedback was brought to Osborne's attention regarding the album title. In respect to fan opinion, on the 29th of March, Osborne announced his album would be renamed Scream. In the 13th of April 2010, Osborne announced the release date for Scream would be the 15th of June 2010. The release date was later changed to a week later. A single from the album, Let Me Hear You Scream, debuted on the 14th of April 2010 episode of CSI New York.
I guess I know he's been in some shows.
Yeah. The 9th of August 2010, Osborne announced that the second video from the album would be Life Won't Wait, and the video for the song would be directed by his son Jack. When asked his opinion of Scream in an interview, Osborne announced that he was already thinking about his next album. Osborne's current drummer, Tommy Clufos, had reflected the segment, saying, "We were already coming up with new ideas backstage in the hotel rooms and at the sound check and have a bunch of ideas recorded." In October 2014, Osborne released Memoirs of a Madman, a collection celebrating his entire solo career. A CD version contains 17 singles from across his career, never before compiled together.
Huh.
The DVD version contained music videos, live performances, and interviews. In 2015, in August, Epic Records president Sylvia Rhode confirmed with Billboard that Osborne was working on yet another studio album. In September of 2019, Osborne announced that he had finished the album in 4 weeks following his collaboration with Post Malone. In April of 2017, it was announced that guitarist Zakk Wylde would reunite with Osborne for a summer tour to mark the 30th anniversary of their first collaboration on 1988's No Rest for the Wicked. The first show of the tour would take place on the 14th of July at the Rock USA Festival in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Now, November 6, 2017, Osborne was announced as the headline act for the Sunday of the 2018 Download Festival, held annually at Donington Park in Leicestershire, England. Having previously graced the main stage in previous years fronting Black Sabbath, this would be his first ever Download headline solo appearance. The Download Festival set comes as part of Osborne's final world tour announcement that morning. On the 6th of February 2018, Osborne announced that he would embark on the final world tour dubbed No More Tours 2, in reference to the 1990 tour the same date, with support from Stone Sour on the North American portion of the tour. He later insisted that he would not retire. It's no more tours, so I'm not going to do world tours anymore. I'm still going to be doing gigs, but they're not going to be tour for 6 months at a time anymore. I'd like to spend some time at home. September of 2019, Osborne was featured on the song Take What You Want by Post Malone. The song would peak on the Billboard Hot 100 charts at number 8, making Osborne's first ever top 10 single in 30 years since he was featured on Lita Ford's Close My Eyes Forever. Now, in 2020, in February, Osborne released the first solo album in almost 10 years, Ordinary Man, which received positive reviews from music critics and debuted at number 3 in the UK albums charts. A few days after the release, Osborne told iHeartRadio that he wanted to make another album with Andrew Watt, the main producer of Ordinary Man. 1 week after the release of the album, an 8-beat video game dedicated to Osborne's release called Legend of Ozzy. Osborne had started working with the follow-up album, once again with Andrew Watt, and in November of 2021, Sony announced that the Osborne's album would be released within 6 months. It was also announced that Zakk Wylde will have full involvement of the album following his absence on Ordinary Man. In June of 22, Osborne announced that the 13th album would be titled Patient Number 9 and released the title track along with accompanying music video the same day. The album was released on the 9th of September 2022. Osborne then had the first live performances of the 3 years, with 2 brief concerts at sporting events. In the 30th of August, he performed Iron Man and Paranoid at the 2022 Commonwealth Games closing ceremony in Birmingham, joined by Iommi and former tour members of Black Sabbath, Tommy Clufos and Adam Wakeman. And on the 8th of September at 2022 NFL Kickoff, held at Inglewood SoFi Stadium, Osborne performed both Patient Number 9 and Crazy Train with his backing band being Zach Wild, Tonic and Flues, Chris Cheney, and the album's producer Andrew Watt. Now, in January 2023, Osborne announced that the European leg of the No More Tours 2 would be canceled after almost 2 years of being postponed. Osborne effectively retired from tour, citing his accident in 2019, which resulted in the singer suffering spinal damage, while affirming his plans to continue smaller-scale live performances as his health permitted. In September of 2023, he revealed that he was working on a new album with a planned 2024 release, while also preparing to go on the road to following a successful spinal surgery earlier that month. In 2023, Rolling Stone, who way back in the early days had been critical, ranked Osborne at number 112 on its list of 200 greatest singers of all times. But sadly, 17 days after that last concert on the 5th of July, Ozzy Osbourne would pass away, surrounded by friends and family, as he said, surrounded by love. But the grandfather of heavy metal is finally going to get his long-deserved break. But there probably will never be another Ozzy, not with the skill he had. But this is the Bearded One for the Bug Files, and we'll see you guys next week. Good night.